in the world. Thank you very much for joining us. Today, we'll be hearing from our second place Inspiring Solutions winner, which is ScaleUp Champions, a project by Poznan Science and Technology Park in Poland, as well as some other IASP members, which we will hear more about as soon as I hand over to our speaker. But before I do that, just to let you know that we had a webinar last week, and even if you thought you missed it, you haven't. It's available on our YouTube channel, or in the IASP members area. You can find that webinar and a lot of our previous Inspiring Solutions webinars, along with some of the conference sessions from IASP Virtual this year and last year. So if you're an IASP member, do check that out. And of course, today's session will also be shared up there. So I know anyone can watch on demand when they want. And we'll have another one in 2 weeks' time with our colleagues at Consa Technopolis, who will be telling us about the Consa Innovation Ecosystem Initiative. So do join us on the 14th of December to learn about their solution as well. We're also about to, excuse me, my slides are jumping. Let's try and go back. Anyway, I'll keep talking. We're about to launch the new edition of Inspiring Solutions. So while we get inspired by what Anna is about to tell us today, just bear in mind that you can also enter your innovative best practice. We'll send out details in tomorrow's IASP newsletter, but just do get thinking about the best practice that you may have in place, any innovative things going on in your science park or area of innovation. And please share the information with us in the Inspiring Solutions program, and maybe you will be the 2022 winner. We'll be announcing the winners as well as talking about a lot of other things at our in-person World Conference in September 2022. The discussion will focus on green and digital change powered by innovation. So that's another call that will be opening very shortly. So please, again, keep an eye on the IASP website and our social media and your inbox. And we'll have full details of how you can share a paper proposal for the chance to speak at that World Conference next year. And so for now, I will hand over to today's speaker, Anna Torch, who's the International Development Officer at Poznan Science and Technology Park in Poland. Hello, Anna, welcome. I will just take these slides away and just let everyone know that if you have any questions, please do feel free to ask them during the webinar. At any point, you see the Q&A panel at the bottom, and we will take any questions you may have at the end of Anna's presentation. So thank you, welcome, and I'll hand over to you.
Thank you very much for the invitation, for the introduction, and for giving me an opportunity to talk about a thing that I'm absolutely in love with, in the sense that I'm a project manager of ScaleUp Champions, and I'm very much into this initiative. So let me just try to share my screen to have a framework of what I would like to talk about. Now I will ask this magical question: is my presentation visible?
Yes, your presentation is visible.
Okay. It's like a mantra that we are repeating each and every time when we are starting presenting. Okay, so ScaleUp Champions is something I would really love to tell you more about. We are very happy that we have this second position in Inspiring Solution, because I truly believe that what we've done so far and our approach might be something that inspires other business support institutions, parks, incubators, to open themselves to go more internationally, because that was the main philosophy behind the project. It all started, I think, at one of the IASP's conferences when us, Poznan Science and Technology Park, started a conversation with a couple of more IASP members, And it turned out that we have common goals, that we have common approach, that we have common ideas that we want to develop, and that basically we would like to. The challenge here is to find a way to finance those ideas, and then we can go further and develop something together. So the basic thing about ScaleUp Champions is that 5 partners, I'm going to mention a bit more about later on, decided that they are all somehow involved in supporting innovative businesses, but supporting those companies who are like at the edge of their next step, at the edge of scaling up phase. So we wanted to foster the collaboration. We wanted to open the door. We wanted to also give those companies opportunities to attract foreign investors. And of course, we wanted to have something for us out of it, meaning we wanted to connect 5 ecosystems. And that was equally important for us as supporting startups. And I will, in my next slides, I will focus more on what we've done for startups and scale-ups. And then in the end, I will mention a few things about our well, ScaleUp Champions family, let's call it this way. Scaling up innovative businesses across EU was, well, we knew that there is a need for support in that field, and but we went a bit farther, a bit deeper. We started to figuring out what are really the obstacles that companies are stuck in the pre-scaling up phase. And we decided that we are going to focus on 3 aspects. First of all, money, second, clients, and third, entering like knowledge about new markets. And we decided to do it in a consortium of 5 ecosystems. So Poznan Science and Technology Park, and out of those 5, I think 4 are IASP members. So it's a very good example of the benefits from being an active member of the network, because we were scouting for partners via IASP, of course. So Poznan Science and Technology Park is the coordinator, the leading partner. Then we have DTU ScaleUp, the only one non-IASP organization. Then, so we have Denmark, we have Spain with La Salle, Technova Barcelona and La Salle University. We have Lithuania with Kaunas Science and Technology Park, and we have Estonia with Technopole Tallinn. So very different ecosystems on different levels of development, and that gives a certain repercussions, let's say, that brought certain repercussions into the project. But here you see the numbers. Our targets were supporting 75 startups with the individual investment readiness programs, to conduct 10 market discovery missions, and to help up to 50 startups validate their ideas with the corporates. So the biggest challenge and the biggest fun of ScaleUp Champions was that basically we were running 3 programs in parallel. We knew that we wanted to provide startups the best opportunities for them to scale. So depending on their needs, depending on their focus, we wanted to deliver them opportunities to work with, to validate their product with corporations, to get themselves ready to work with investors, or to give them like to open them door to those 5 ecosystems I mentioned a while ago. And what's also important, I believe, from the perspective of a person who is designing and implementing support programs, is that all those 3 programs, we run them in a way that we were designing, like in a kind of a design thinking way, I would say. So design first, implementation second, receiving feedback, analyzing what had happened, and then implementing, if needed, implementing changes and upgrading those programs. So you can see that that all those 3 programs were run at least, or are going to be run at least twice. So a couple of words about each of those programs. Investment Readiness program came out of 2 identified challenges. First, that scale-ups are not always ready to present their idea, to pitch their idea to investors. And the second, that it's not that common across the European Union to have cross-border investments. So we had 2 goals. First was to make sure that startups are investment ready, and second, to provide them with a network of international investors. To achieve the first, we came up with a tailor-made approach. So we skipped the part when the whole batch is having common workshops. There is only one workshop that is mandatory, which is a pitching one. And other than that, everything is focused on work, like individual work with the mentor, who is assessing needs of each startup, and based on that is with our help, is providing that startup with the help of external experts, like a field experts and so on. What is pretty classic on one hand, but still very like a working thing, is that while we have those startups investment ready, we are giving them a chance to pitch their ideas to investors during demo day. What might be not that common, or it's something we came up with while running the project, is that we decided to organize smaller, in terms of number of startups and investors, smaller demo days, but targeted one, in the sense that we decided it's more about quality than quantity, and it's worth having 10 or between 5 and 10 startups and similar number of investors, because it gives them there's more interaction, and chances for startups to successfui pick up the interest of investors are higher. So this is something we came up with during the project. We are running the last 4th batch of this investment readiness program, and we are monitoring how many of out of almost 75 startups are still working with investors or negotiating maybe the contracts. So I'm not, I won't tell you that now because I want to wait a bit more, but we're tracking the progress. Second way to support scale-ups was to give them access to big clients, to give them access to corporates, and to make sure that they are like that the both sides are ready for that collaboration. Mostly, so the process was like 5 stages. First, we like including the 0 stage, let's say. So the 0 stage was when we defined fields, and that's what you see with the hashtags. So retail, fintech, medtech, green tech, smart cities, health tech, industry 4.0, and biotech. Those were the fields where we were actively scouting for challenges for corporates that could provide us with challenges. And I have to say, we were pretty successful with attracting big names like, for example, Volkswagen Poland. Then we put quite of an effort to give to support corporations with running, like defining challenges, because that was a crucial thing to attract startups, but also for startups to understand what is really about. Then we helped the startups. We're scouting for startup and onboarding them, and then again we had kind of a pitching event we called Virtual Knowledge Summit. So we had a small thematic breakout rooms with representatives of corporates and startups pitching. And after that, we had the matchmaking sessions that helped to define which corporation is really interested in working with which startups. And of course, it was like a funnel. So you can imagine that in the matchmaking phase, we had less successful collaborations. But for those who were interested, where the both sides were interested, we were helping them with mentors to set up a collaboration roadmap. So a plan, an action plan, how to work on implementation, a startup's idea to the corporates. And the third idea how to support deep tech startups in their scaling up is internationalization in general. And honestly, that was the most challenging part, of course, due to the COVID situation. But we were trying to adjust to adjust the sales and to sell in this situation we have. So we basically moved all those activities online, and it was the only solution. That was the only solution we had. But we also wanted to try the new format, and as everything that is run remotely, it has its pros and its cons. The challenge, like the longer COVID, the longer we are in the COVID situation, the bigger challenge it becomes to attract people because of the online fatigue. But on the other hand, we are able to provide those startups with top-notch mentors or representatives of those 5 ecosystems that we wouldn't have chance to do offline because of costs and time availability and stuff like that. So here also we decided to focus more on tailor-made approach. So pan-European online incubation had a very similar framework as investment readiness program, and market discovery tours had like 2 days of kind of a conference or workshops or panel discussions, and then next 2 weeks for startups to book individual meetings with the representatives of ecosystems that caught their attention. Last but not least, I wanted to tell you something more about the approach we implemented as a consortium. We are representing 5 different ecosystems, 5 different countries, 5 different ways of working. So at the very beginning, at the kickoff meeting, which took place 2 years ago, almost exactly 2 years ago, we decided that we want to build a common framework for the, let's call it, back office. So what we want to deliver to both ourselves as a consortium, to our clients, meaning startups, scale-ups, and to the client, which is the European Commission, obviously. So we had a very nice workshop, and we decided on 7 main verticals, let's put it this way. So for us, it was very important as a consortium to be valuable, but also to wisely use resources. So both internal and external, to be agile, because it's very easy to, while you're running a project, to focus too much on KPIs, deliverables, and reporting, not the real needs of your clients, of the companies. We highly involved stakeholders, different kind of stakeholders into our actions. We were trying to be communicative, so balance somehow how open we are, and how much we are talking about our problems, and also to be well organized, and to nurture the team spirit. And I have to tell you that people I'm working with, people from Kaunas, from Tallinn, from Barcelona, from Lyngby, from Denmark, they're the best team I've ever worked with. They're not only devoted to really implement those programs, but also to deliver them on the highest quality, and we still manage to have a great time working together. And as you see, we've been mixing. We were lucky to meet twice before the corona hit us all, but then we also implemented some funny ways to run our weekly Scrum meetings. So yes, really, it wouldn't be possible to implement this project the way we did if not for those people. And that's it from my side. Here you have my contact information. I'm open to answer any questions or to share other aspects of the project I haven't shared during my presentation.
Thank you so much, Anna. It's really nice to know that you actually enjoyed working on the ScaleUp Champions as well, because I can imagine that some of the fun, the enjoyable human contact from projects is where you can actually see each other and visit each other's countries. I think that's part of the whole meaning of European projects, but it seems like you managed it, even if it was only remotely, you still managed somehow to get to know each other.
You should see, we had the chance to meet beginning of September this year. For some of people, it was the first time when we met in person. Oh, it was like seeing the family you haven't seen in quite a long time. You know, hugs, kisses, and oh yeah, a lot of like really emotion. But other than that, of course, we're all professionals, and we are very much involved into that.
But you mentioned that the online fatigue was a bit of a challenge in finding participants. Did that affect more the startups and scale-ups, or was there an aspect of that with the corporates you worked with and the mentors, or who did it affect the most?
I would say startups, because it's also a dropout rate I think we all know that challenge. The dropout rate was pretty high when it comes to online events. So that's something we are trying to actively work on. But also this thing of having smaller events, more targeted ones, that was working pretty well. So when you are not that anonymous, when somebody is approaching you personally, and you feel probably a bit more obliged to
participate. It makes sense that if it's a meeting that you've said you will attend, people are expecting you. Whereas if it's a big event, you could go, you could not. You don't think it will inconvenience anybody if you just change your mind and do something else instead. But I suppose that makes it more work for the project team if you have to prepare many small, detailed, individual events.
Yes.
Yeah, I can imagine. The international aspect, how did you find that worked? Were there different approaches, or did you know already what you wanted and you were all on the same page, or how did you find any challenges with that?
Well, in terms of project goal, definitely we were on the same page from the very beginning. So, and I believe that was one of the reasons why why the cooperation was pretty smooth, because we had a common goal, common understanding of things. But it turned out that, which is not like a rocket science or like a breakthrough in realization, that we are operating in 5 very different ecosystems. And also, not only in general when it comes to supporting deep tech startups, but in particular parts of our project. So there were differences in challenges when it comes to attracting investors, when it comes to attracting corporates, because I don't know, Spain has a very well developed kind of a mindset among corporates to work with startups. In Poland, it turned out that we have pretty many deep tech startups, so we didn't have any problem with attracting them. On the other hand, in Denmark, for example, the offer for deep tech startups is so rich, so wide, that it was quite of a challenge to create a unique value proposition for them. So different aspects that forced us somehow to have to apply that tailored approach also to our actions as a consortium.
So you did get corporates from all the countries to participate, obviously?
Yes, yes, in the end we did, but the level of involvement was different, the numbers were different also.
And then for the startups, they were interested in working with any of those corporates. So I suppose they wanted to go pan-European rather than sticking to their own country.
Yes, absolutely.
That was part of the goal of the whole project, I suppose.
When we asked our startups how happy they were with the project, with the offer, and what was the most important for them, it was this international dimension, the opportunity to work with international mentors. Because as a startup from Poland, you were working with the mentors from Lithuania and Spain, for example, and so on. So that was something that not many programs are providing startups with.
And who were the mentors who you ended up getting? You mentioned that you were able to access better or really high quality mentors because of the online nature of the project. Who did you end up working with for mentors?
Well, we had mentors from all over Europe. People either investors, people with business background, people experienced in scaling up their companies, people experienced with working abroad, and so on and so forth. So like really many profiles, and what was also great was that having that big pool of mentors, we could simply exchange contacts and give startups access to all of them.
Yeah, that sounds a real advantage, that in one program you get access to a whole European market. So
exactly.
I'm still, of course, we love to take questions from any of our participants, but I'm going to ask something that I know participants often do mention in these webinars, which is about the funding or the financing of the project. It was a European Commission project?
Yes, it's the Horizon 2020 project. But yeah, but anyways, like if to think about it budget-wise, of course we were very lucky to have that financing, because it also allowed us to run three programs in parallel, basically. But I would say that the highest budget line, like the biggest budget line, are mentors. Because if you want to have people really involved, I think that money are still like the thing that simply pays for the time they are spending working with scale-ups and startups.
Yeah, because from the way you've described it, it sounds like they also committed quite a lot of time to the support they were giving. And
yes, and often it was not only support like of 1 hour mentoring session per month or 2 weeks, but also sharing some contacts, like personal, giving personal introductions and so on and so forth. So that's the added value, of course.
Yeah, no, it's interesting to contrast in a sense that it's a big cross-European project at a big scale, but then the added value seems to be from the very personal, individual approach. So the sort of two levels that it's working at.
That's a very nice way of summarizing it. I haven't thought about it.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. And what about what would be your top lessons learned if you were giving advice to other STPs worldwide who might want to form an international project like this, maybe across a region?
I would say choose wise your partners, in the sense that choose organizations that are looking in the same direction. Because while you have a common goal, it's way easier to engage not only the project team, but the organization as such. So that would be one thing. The second thing, be ready to experience cultural differences, even if we are talking about European countries. Still, and third, maybe start the project with the very start forming the consortium from the very beginning, in the sense that really make people get to know each other better, build some sort of a small network. I use this the name like ScaleUp Champions family on purpose, because we have like really close relationships. Sometimes we were laughing that we see each other more often than we see our colleagues from the office. But yeah, like rules or like common understanding of how we are going to work together. It's also something that helps a lot during the implementation phase.
And how did you reach that understanding? Was it, perhaps you had common goals, like you said, but to work out how to work together? The slide you showed with your 5 verticals, that sounds like that must have been a very valuable session for.
Yes, and that was also something we've learned from our previous projects where we were partners only, that we knew that if we one day are coordinating a huge project, we want to work with people on how we are going to work in the project at the kickoff. So kickoff was purely to get to know each other better, and to understand that we are not going to produce 30 pages reports, but we are going to have something much shorter, and that we are not going to have like very long meetings once a month, but we are going to have Scrum meetings, meaning half an hour each week, and that we are going to use Slack, for example, as a main mean of the like this in immediate communication. So small things, like really small things, but then agreeing on them makes everybody's life easier.
That sounds like very good advice for all projects, all group work in the world ever. I think that establishing expectations, how you're going to go about them, I think that's some very universally applicable advice, but I'm making little notes about thinking, where will that apply for what I'm doing? So thank you. I just wanted to ask one last question before we wrap up, which is about the startups and the outcome for them. Do you have any sort of #1 success story from the project, or is it too early yet to be able to say?
I would say there is one example I want to share. I'm not going to give the name, but because they are still in the phase of negotiating. But it's a startup that produces hardware. Like the battery that gives you to charge the peacemakers, but without making it like you don't have to remove it and replace the battery. You can just somehow put it on your skin and it charges the peacemaker. And they are classical scale-up deep tech in that sense that it took them a couple of years to work on the prototype, to run some preliminary tests and so on and so forth. And they came to us looking for investment to move further. And they pitched. They were put in touch with some investors, and then we we're still supporting them in this way to get the final investment. So we are supporting them in terms of we are consulting the term sheets. We also suggested some very important clauses that they should have in the contract, and so on and so forth. So this is one thing, and there are many more when it comes to collaboration with corporates. Like for example, after the virtual knowledge summit, we had 2 or 3 situations when the corporate said, "Okay, you know what? Your product is that good and that ready that we're going to, can we sign a licensing agreement?" It's like, yeah, well, of course.
Yeah.
So
that's a great outcome. Yeah.
Yes, and this is this is what really gives this is the most satisfying aspect of delivering that kind of programs.
Fantastic. Yeah, it sounds like it's really had an impact, even though I'm sure there's another stage that will still to come of a final outcome, but already it really sounds like it's done what it set out to do. I think that's time for us to wrap up. But thank you so much for being with us. If anyone listening has any questions you'd like to ask, please don't hesitate to get in touch with us at IASP, and we'll pass your comments on to Anna. So thank you for your time today, and it's been really good to know more about our Inspiring Solutions winners. So thank you very much indeed.
Thank you very much for having me.